Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Tonight, we are joined by Vechi Mutum from Treehouse Recovery in California, a long-standing T.A.M hero. For those of you that don't know him, Vechi is the man whose mom wouldn't buy him a sleeping bag during his addiction, a story which we have available on YouTube that many of us refer to when talking about setting those boundaries. Vechi just celebrated his 12th year in recovery, and we're excited to hear what he will be sharing with us tonight. Vechi, congratulations on your recovery, and if you're ready to get started, we will turn the mic over to you.
Thank you so much, Kemi. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm ready to go if you guys are.
There we go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's had a good Christmas or a decent Christmas. New Year's is around the corner. And with the holidays around, I wanted to talk about a couple different things actually, one main thing that I hear a lot, parents are worried about what they're doing, if they're doing the right thing. So I put some thought into this, and I think the best way to kind of go over this is a few things that have occurred from two perspectives, or I'm sorry, two different dimensions. One is the guy or girl who's still struggling at home, how we approach that, what some dangers or added risks may be during that time. Why Christmas the day of, or New Year's the day of, or even Thanksgiving the day of is not the end of the danger that may be increased at that time. And I'll give you some reasons why. And I'm going to share a story with you that just happened recently that hopefully will give you guys some courage if you're stuck questioning whether or not you're doing the right thing. And then we will talk about how and the do's and don'ts of when our loved one, son or daughter, comes home and they're newly sober, and how to handle those holidays, how to support them without making them feel weird, different things to look out for. So I'd like to go ahead and get started. Unless anybody has any questions like off the bat or starting. No? Okay. All right. Christmas time, the holidays, Thanksgiving, these are all very, very, very dangerous times for the addict or alcoholic still in addiction. There's a lot of different triggers that can be around at this time, and they may not be super apparent. We will have, there's family around, there's access to things. What I mean by that is there's relatives around who may not really know what's going on. Cousins may be there. Depending on the situation, if they've been invited in off the street, they may ask for money from them. You may not know what's going on with different family members at that time. They may join up together. An addict or an alcoholic will find another addict or an alcoholic if you put them within 10 feet of each other, especially around the holidays. They have greater access to money, gift cards, the auntie or grandma who, loves her grandchild and just wants to give them a little bit of money. It's okay. Not realizing that what they can use that for could be catastrophic. As an addict during the holiday time, we know who we can leverage. So that same grandmom or auntie or uncle that loves and adores them, I would go to hustle who I could. If I would wait for the Christmas cards to show up so I could grab them, cash them, use them, buy more drugs. It's a super dangerous time. So if you think you're limiting their resources at this time, I'd be very, very careful, because they have a whole menagerie of things to pull from and a whole lot of different ways that they can get what they want at the time, especially if they're still in their addictions. Severe stressors at this time. They're not just dealing with mom or dad, they're dealing with aunties, they're dealing with uncles, grandparents. Maybe they got into a fight. Maybe they don't like their opinion. Maybe they don't like them. Everything is increased and intensified during these times. They're stuck together. We're in situations where they're not normally. Family gatherings of this nature are difficult and stressful for people who are sober. You can imagine what the addict must be going through, has difficulty maintaining inner calm or emotional intelligence, or being able to express themselves and feeling okay within a space. Now imagine all the different dynamics. We tend to absorb everything. Mom may not be having a great time with, father-in-law on the other side, or vice versa. We can pick up on that. and we will use it to our advantage if we can. So keep an eye out for that. Um, the triggers that are there as well. The shame. It's Christmas time. I remember a particular Christmas, my mom had a bunch of friends over, of our friends, our age, my brother's friends, my sister's friends, and everybody had bought everybody's gifts, and I didn't have any money. So I pretended to be sick. I pretended I had the stomach flu or something and hid in my room the whole time with people outside opening gifts. Having other people there, the pressures and realities of you falling short in a lot of different areas of your life. You can't hide from those when there's a bunch of people around. Everybody's opening gifts, and you feel like an absolute and total piece of crap. Um, yeah, and you're trapped. You can't go anywhere. Someone's going to notice. You go outside too long, someone's going to notice. You stay inside too long, someone's going to notice. Parents, keep an eye on the bathroom. I know this sounds horrible, but it's critical. If you hear anybody go in the bathroom for an extended period of time, and the shower's running or something's not right, better safe than sorry. Knock on the door, ask them to respond. Um, you don't want your addict or alcoholic in the bathroom for an extended period of time, especially if it's right after getting a Christmas card or anything like that. You never know what may be going on. Um, our response to stress at that point is very much to use. So if we just got in an uncomfortable altercation with mom or dad or uncle or cousin and we want to immediately withdraw, we can go to the bathroom and get some privacy. And if we've got anything on us and that's what our go-to is to be able to avoid that uncomfortability or that guilt or that shame, we will absolutely use it. And without thought or care for what effect it might have on anyone else or the event or even our lives. So be careful. Um, keep them close. Um, the day of the event, whether that be Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's, depending on the culture, there's a lot of different gifts that are given. Is not always, if you make it past that day, that may not mean that you're safe. Even gifts or clothes that, okay, well, I'm not going to give them money or a gift card. I'm going to give them clothes. They'll head straight to the store. They'll turn those in. They'll return them for the money or even the store credit. When I was out there, I found out that there were certain dealers or connects that would give me 50 cents on the dollar for gift cards. 50 cents on. So if I returned $100 worth of clothing, I could get $50 of credit from the dope man. So be mindful. Um, you have to stay on high alert afterwards. I'm going to address something that is going to seem uncomfortable. It may seem outrageous to some of you guys, and I understand that. And you're absolutely entitled to your opinion and your emotions and everything that's wrapped around it. But I'm going to share what the risks are. Um, every Christmas, every holiday, in the recovery industry, there's a lull in between like Thanksgiving and New Year's. And I've seen this idea take place in a lot of different family dynamics. And they think, well, we're just going to have them home for one last Christmas, and then they're going to go. And sometimes they avoid treatment instead of that. Sometimes with the best of intentions, they bring their child home thinking, well, I can monitor him for a few hours. He's my son or my daughter. I just have to watch him. And those kind of things can have catastrophic consequences and permanent ones. If your child is in need of medical care, if they're using something that's potentially fatal, I know how important Christmas is, but you have to come to a very real decision. Separate the emotion out of it and think of something. Think of it this way, and this is as logical as I can make it in such an absolutely non-logical but emotion-driven subject as your child and their lives and spending time with them, especially around Christmas. This can either be the very last Christmas that they are away from you, or it could be the last Christmas they ever spend with you. There was a family member this past weekend whose child did not make it. They brought them out of the treatment center. They brought them home just for the Christmas day. They were supposed to enter into treatment the next day after that. And the mother left for the store real quickly, came home, and they had passed. I understand it's a heavy thing to bring to mind, but these are the facts of the situation. Fentanyl is not, it's not easing up on us. Um, Mental health, suicide is not easing up on us, and it will look for any and every opportunity to take somebody we love. So it may seem very odd. It may seem like it's going against your protective nature, but remember, you want them around for the long game. Um, Talk to professionals, get their insight, and realize something. It's not that you've done anything wrong or you are doing anything wrong. If love alone would keep people sober, then none of your children would need help. My mom, I wouldn't have ever picked up a drink or a drug. My mom adored me, loved me to death. It wasn't a shortness of love or good intention. She was fighting a horrific disease and didn't have the entire picture. So that's something to keep in mind, and it's something that takes a lot of thought and separating emotion from reality, but can be ultimately powerful. I've got fathers who come and they speak about, well, it's Christmas time and I got to be there. And to be honest, to share from my own experience, I had the very same justifications. I did not come get sober during the Christmas time from when my son and daughter were first born. I would use them as, and this is, I'm just saying for me, I would use them as an excuse. Well, it's their first Christmas. I don't want to miss that. It's so important. Here's the truth. They are not going to remember anything until about 3 years old. So me saying that I was going to miss something, yeah, that's true. I am going to miss something. I'm going to miss a Christmas or two, maybe only one if I get to work and get it done right. But I'm going to miss a Christmas. But they will not miss anything. So I will give up a Christmas as a father, but they will get their dad for the rest of their lives. Using your children, and I'm not proud to say this, but using the excuse to being with your children to not to get well doesn't work. It comes from a selfish place, at least it did for me, and is not genuine. As parents, like we sacrifice for our kids. I think everybody on this call knows that. And you give up whatever they need for whatever they need. Um, Now that's an addict in addiction. Those are family dynamics in addiction, and it's important to remember that these are extremely complex systems, and they do play on each other. Sometimes it's like a spider web. You pull on one tiny string, and everything else moves. You add one other thing into it, and the whole thing goes sideways. You can't control everything. Just try to meet it with compassion and love, but carefully, and with as little risk as possible, or as little risk as manageable. Best place to be for anybody using is in a center getting help. And whether that's a state-funded county facility or a place run by volunteers like where I went to, I entered detox at Charlie Street here in Costa Mesa, California, which is an indigent men's detox, no medications, on 11/24/2011. And they gave you a paper suit and a bucket to throw up in, no medications, and you sat there for 10 days. I just got 12 years sober. That's how I started. So that was a safer place for me to be than waiting for mom to go to bed so I could get high, breaking into the mailbox the day before Christmas, before anybody got up to raid and steal the Christmas cards. Um, that was a much safer place for me to be. Now that we've kind of covered those, if anyone has any questions, just hold them for right now. And I'm going to go over how we treat the freshly sober addict or alcoholic when they get home. First off, don't look at them funny. They feel awkward enough being there. They have to learn how to have fun doing new behaviors without drugs and alcohol. Don't change your lifestyle and work it all around them. I would congratulate them. That's a way to let everybody know that somebody's sober. Hey, Vechi's here. It's his first sober Christmas. Sober? What do you mean he's sober? Yeah, he's sober. Don't ban alcohol from the house because that's not reality. That's what's going to happen. He's going to go to other places that are going to have alcohol, and he or she they need to learn how to deal with that. Talk to them, engage with them, see how they're doing. I've got a family I'm working with right now that I send a couple drug tests home just to be safe, even if they never use them. The idea in the mind of the addict or alcoholic, who's there, is, oh man, she's got tests. I better not. That's not worth risking. That guy sent drug tests home, or mom may test me. This ain't worth it, man. I'm not doing it. That little bit of knowledge in the background psychologically can be the difference between them using and not using during a weak point. Be careful of them disappearing, walking away, taking off. Um, they have been doing a lot of work, and they may seem very awkward. I remember one of the first times that I had attempted to get sober, my behavior was so drastically different that my mom thought I was actually using, when it was the first time I'd been sober in years. It didn't last long, but it was very, very different. As a newly sober alcoholic or an addict, the emotions are very raw. They're very, very loud, and they can be difficult to handle. Give them time. They may get a little more upset about something which may seem simple on the surface. Be patient with them. Don't feed into it. Don't co-sign their BS, but be patient with them. Let them talk a little bit. If they need to call their sponsor, or they need to do something, let them do that. Um, Start to develop new whatever you guys routines or rituals or traditions are. Start to do that with them in a sober way. Even if you guys are, if they drink a lot, make sure there's non-alcoholic beverages there. Make sure that they can still participate without feeling left out. Um, Sometimes parents get a worried because they're concerned that their drinking may be looked at, or being frowned upon. Well, it's not about them right now. Right now, it's about that individual trying to figure out how to manage life sober. Emotions will be heightened. They'll feel a little awkward, but help them get comfortable and used to and even love being able to spend and build new memories with their families completely sober. It'll be the first of many to come. Tool sets and skill sets will need to be built on both sides, both for the addict who's coming back into the family dynamic and for the family dynamic around the addict. Like, this is going to be a different person. We have to learn with patience. I would say trust but verify, to build that trust again. One of the worst things you can ever do to somebody who's trying to change their life is consistently and constantly remind them of who they were and what they did. It's one of the mistakes that happened. Hey, did I lose you guys?
Well, you did
You,
for a second, but you're back. Go ahead.
okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So one of the mistakes that occurred was, I believe to be a mistake and would not repeat it, was I kept on getting people telling me what I did do and where I did fail and all the other times I tried. And there'd been a lot. And listen, these things were justified. I did some horrible stuff. I stole from my mom. I stole from my sister. I stole from my brother. It was not great. But when you're trying to change your life and you don't even think you can do it, all those little pieces and evidence being constantly brought up in your face doesn't help. Now, there will be a time of reconciliation where you guys will sit down, and if they're working a program, they will do their very best to make amends on it. But you got to get them there first. Don't put too much weight or stress on that emotional muscle that they're just building, barely building, or that confidence to where they can succeed until they're ready, both for you and them. Be easy on yourself, too. Give yourself some time and patience. Um, that's about all I have kind of scripted out. I'd like to answer questions. I'm sure just coming through the holidays, there must be some. I hope there is. And I'm happy to hear from you guys.
Wow, Vechi, what what an amazing story. Thank you so much for that information. And you touched on things that are so important to many of us. I don't, I'm not sure I have a question, more or less like a statement. My daughter is in, I want to say, early recovery. She just celebrated 2 years. And
Good
I
deal.
have custody of her son and have had for 7 years. So
Oh
this
boy.
year, she called like 2 or 3 days before Christmas and she said, "What are the plans for Christmas?" And typically I would say, "Well, we're eating it too." This year I kind of took a step back and I said, "Well, what are your plans for Christmas?"
Hmm.
And she said, "I've been asked to speak at a speaker jam at 1 o'clock. But if that's not okay, I don't have to. And I said, so you're going to speak at a speaker jam at 1 o'clock? I said, how long will that be? And she said, an hour. And I said, we'll eat at 3. So I wanted to eat at noon, but we ate at 3.
Good job. It's I listen. It's never going to be normal, or in fact, my Instagram handle is a normal to who? Like, what is normal? Normal to what do you mean? But the normal is going to change a little bit. But when that normal changes to you making a little bit of room for her to continue her recovery and her increasing that bond, like that's fortification of relationships and new experiences. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. That's how you build new normals.
Right. And Sue says, with so much of the work of watching our addicted loved one during the holiday or family events in an already stressful time, would it make more sense to do something a little, I lost it, here we go, a little quieter one-on-one or with just a couple close family at a different time? I can't imagine watching everything my child does now. I lived that for years and did a horrible job every time.
Um, is that Susu?
Yep, that's Susu.
I love Sue. Um, I mean, it can, but here's the thing. Don't, I work with a lot of parents who have this innate or have this fear that if they do something wrong, it'll throw them off. Or if I don't do just this just right. And guys, like that, we have to remember as parents. Now, this is me being the parental advocate, which is we cannot take toxic ownership of their behavior. You could do everything perfect and it still goes sideways. You could do everything right or wrong and they could still hold on. So there are things we can do, right? As long as they're done with love and compassion, you're not responsible for that human being. You're not controlling what they're doing. And I've known Sue for a long time. I know that she absolutely adores her kids and does everything she possibly can. But we can't take toxic ownership of what they're doing. We raised them to where they're strong enough to have eyes and a mouth and talk and manipulate and hover and lie and steal and all these other things. Like we can't take toxic ownership. We can hope for them. We can pray for them. We can love them. Um, it just depends. No matter what you do, something can go wrong. There is no 100%. If I've learned anything in 12 years of trying to help people and lose people and trying to figure out different ways to do it, nothing is 100%.
Right. And Terry says, Vechi, I have learned so much from you. When I start to waver, I always think of what you told us that turned you around, which was your mom not buying you that sleeping bag. That gives me strength every time I want to cave. Thank you for everything you do to support others. And then she says, I do have a question though, laughing out
Yes,
loud.
ma'am.
So many times I have said things to my son at my worst. I carried
Mm.
that guilt back then and am so much better now. Do active addicts register that when they are in full blown addiction? I've offered my amends, but still carry that guilt from time to time.
Okay, so there was an interesting, and if this is too personal, then I'm okay. It's just nasty. I adore Terry, but you said you offered amends. Or if Terry's in Al-Anon, actually she doesn't have to answer, but if she's in Al-Anon and was part of her process and she's given that out and tried her best to make it right in the soul of the person that she believes she's harmed, then that's up to them, man. That's Terry. I wouldn't hold that anymore. I really wouldn't. They're not ready. What that means is they're not ready to accept that amends. And we know we pushed our parents beyond all. No parent should have to deal with an addict, especially the type that I was. We know how difficult we are, and again, turning the lens upon ourselves and worrying about, did I say this wrong or I shouldn't? My mom said some horrific things to me because I pushed her over the edge. You push any sane person over the edge, like you not being able to trust what's going on, and this is her most prized possession. It's your son, and he's doing these things, and he's going to hurt himself or everybody in the house. She's put the house in danger. Like, yeah, you say some insane things because we've driven you insane. No sleep, constant, triggered by the phone ringing, triggered by a text message, triggered by a prescription bottle with missing a couple pills. Like that's torture in some countries. Like, I don't drive anybody nuts. Don't forget you're human too. And trying to make amends for it afterwards, of course. Whether or not it registers with them, I think it does. I don't think any addict thinks they didn't push somebody over the edge. And if they got a good sponsor, they got somebody calling them out on their own BS. It's, oh, well, how far did you push that person? Maybe stealing their checks or their money or their food or their car or any of the above. Push them a little bit over the edge.
Terry says he doesn't even remember, but he forgave her anyways.
Of course you did. Just trying. Yeah.
And then Nancy says, thank you, Vechi. No question, but wanted to let you know I share your sleeping bag story all the time. It was so powerful and helped me tremendously. And
Good.
Sue says, thank you for mentioning that they know that they push their parents. But like
Oh, for sure.
Terry, she also carries a bucket of guilt, what was said in anger.
You know, if somebody was as critical to your children as you may be of yourselves for not being absolutely perfect, you probably give them a few coarse words. Yet as parents, we are horrific to ourselves. We didn't get guidebooks. I didn't get a guidebook when I had kids. Did you guys get one? I think maybe I missed it. Maybe they got the wrong address. And there especially wasn't a volume or a chapter on addicts and alcoholics. Wasn't there. I've looked. We're doing the best we can, you know. In fact, the best education, the best teachers are groups of other parents saying, here's what I did and it did work. Here's what I did and it didn't work. Here's what happened. And I don't think it had anything to do with what I did or didn't do. That's the best teacher. Those are the best chapters.
Well, Betsy, thank you so much for taking the time to come and share such vital information with us moms. We have come to depend on the insight and education you bring, and as you can tell, we carry your story. Thank you for joining us tonight and sharing your thoughts.
You're very welcome. I hope everybody has a wonderful and safe holiday and a beautiful and free New Year's.